Hi, I'm Leah. I'm Brazilian. I live with anxiety, coffee, and a very loud brain. And this is my friend. Hi, I'm Emma. I'm American, and my brain is also very loud, especially at 2 in the morning when I'm trying to sleep. So, welcome. You're watching Easy English Girl Talk. And before you ask, yes, I'm Brazilian. Yes, this is in English. And yes, I chose the name because Girl Talk is exactly what we do here. Real conversations, the kind you have with your best friend, except you're also building your English while you listen. And she didn't even ask for my opinion on the name. I didn't. My channel, my rules, sure, just kidding. This is our podcast, but yes, I chose the name. Leah, okay, fair enough. But honestly, the name fits perfectly. That's literally what we do. Two women talking about real stuff, things that actually matter to us. Exactly. Two friends, one Brazilian, one American, having honest conversations in English. No textbook, no grammar drills, just real topics, real feelings, and real life. Yeah, the kind of conversations you'd have with your best friend over coffee, except in English, and recorded, and slightly more organized than our actual conversations. Slightly. So today's topic is a big one. We're talking about anxiety and overthinking, and not in a clinical way. Not in a here are 5 tips to fix your life kind of way. Just as two women being honest about what actually goes on inside our heads. Because I feel like a lot of people, especially women, carry this constant mental noise and nobody really addresses it in a normal, casual way. Exactly. So let's do that. Let's just talk about it. Okay, Emma, honest question. Do you ever feel like your brain has 50 tabs open at the same time? 50? On a good day. And somehow one of those tabs is playing music, but I have no idea which one. Yes. And another tab is like, hey, remember that embarrassing thing you said 3 years ago at that dinner party? And another one says, what if everyone noticed and they still talk about it? That is anxiety or overthinking or both. Honestly, I've never been completely sure where one ends and the other begins. I think overthinking is the process. Psychologists actually call it rumination. It's this cycle of constantly analyzing, replaying, predicting. And anxiety is the feeling underneath all of that tightness in your chest, that sense that something is wrong even when nothing actually is. That's a really good way to put it. Like, because sometimes I don't even realize I'm anxious. I just think I'm thinking carefully. And then 2 hours later, you've imagined 10 different versions of a conversation that hasn't even happened yet, right? Exactly. I create the problem, the dialogue, the conflict, the apology, the dramatic reconciliation, and the emotional ending. All inside my head, full production. A whole Netflix series, no budget but incredible drama. Award-winning drama. My brain deserves an Emmy. Let's talk about in text messages, because I think this is where overthinking really thrives. Oh, absolutely. Text messages are a playground for anxiety. You send a message, you wait for a reply, and then the person answers with something short, cold, ambiguous. Like, okay, with a period, the most dangerous combination in the English language. The smallest word, it's the biggest emotional damage. And suddenly your brain becomes hyper aware. Almost like a detective, you start analyzing every punctuation mark. Why did she use a period? She never uses periods. Is she upset with me? Why no emoji? She always sends emojis. Something is definitely off. Why did he say fine instead of that's fine? Those are two completely different emotional universes. And then you read the message 5 times trying to hear the tone, but there is no tone. It's just text. Yes, and that's exactly the problem. When there's no tone, your brain invents one. And it almost always chooses the worst possible interpretation. Always. Anxiety never says, maybe everything is fine. Anxiety says, something is very wrong and you need to figure it out immediately. It feels urgent. It feels like productive problem solving, but it's not. It's just mental noise wearing a business suit, pretending to be productive or some like that. Wow, Leah, that is the best description I've ever heard. I just thought of that. Can you believe it? Well, but can we talk about social situations? Because I think many women overthink after literally any human interaction. After a party, after a work meeting, after a dinner, after a 5-second conversation at the grocery store. You come home and suddenly start reviewing your own performance, like you're watching the game tape of your own life. Why did I talk so much? Why did I laugh like that? Was I too quiet? Did my face look strange when she told that story? It's like giving yourself a score after every social moment, and it's never a good score. Never. The anxious brain is a very strict judge. No extra credit, no curve. But here's something important that most people don't realize. There's actually a psychological term for this. It's called the spotlight effect. We tend to believe that others are paying much more attention to us than they actually are. I know that intellectually, but when you're anxious, it feels like there's a secret committee dedicated to analyzing everything you do. A whole committee. A committee called Things Emma Did Wrong Today. Very organized. They have slides, charts, color-coded spreadsheets. That's funny. But seriously, something that helps me is this. If I don't spend hours analyzing other people's awkward moments, they probably don't spend hours analyzing mine. That's genuinely helpful, because when someone else says something a little weird, I forget it in about 10 seconds. Exactly, but when we do it, we remember it forever in 4K with subtitles and dramatic background music. Okay, quick pause. If you're still here and you've been nodding along thinking, that's literally me, first of all, welcome to the club. Second of all, hit that subscribe button. Seriously, I know you're thinking about it. Don't overthink it. She's using our topic against us. I am! Don't let your brain open a new tab about whether or not to subscribe. Just do it. It takes 1 second. And your future self will thank you, because we have so many good conversations coming. Okay, she's right though. Subscribe, leave a comment telling us your most dramatic overthinking moment, and let's keep going. I think the core of overthinking is this. Anxiety is a storyteller. Yes, a very dramatic one. It takes one small fact and adds fear, shame, worst-case predictions, and a catastrophic ending. Psychologists call this tendency to catastrophize, to automatically assume the worst possible outcome from an ambiguous situation. For example, the fact is, my friend didn't reply. The anxiety story is, she's tired of me. I said something wrong. Our friendship is falling apart. Or the fact is, I made a small mistake at work. And the anxiety story becomes, everyone thinks I'm incompetent. I'm going to lose my job. My entire career is built on a lie. These kinds of mental patterns, where our thoughts become distorted by fear, are actually referred to as cognitive distortions. The key skill is learning to separate the actual fact from the story your anxiety is telling you, and once you can see that clearly, things get a little more manageable. Not magically easy, but clearer.
And sometimes that's enough. Just a little clarity to breathe.
Exactly. Anxiety also loves empty spaces. When there's no information, it rushes in to fill the gap. And it always fills it with disaster. That's why when your boss sends you, "Can we talk tomorrow?" your soul literally leaves your body. That message should be illegal. If it's not bad news, just add some context. Nothing serious, just want to check on something. Save a life, add context. Seriously, public service announcement right there. Now, about the pressure women carry, that's really important because I think it connects to everything. Professional anxiety, financial anxiety, appearance anxiety, relationship anxiety. There's this deeply internalized pressure to be responsible for everything, all at once. work, home, family, friendships, health, appearance, finances, simultaneously. That's definitely a lot to process. And somehow you're also supposed to be calm, presentable, productive, emotionally available, and drinking enough water. The water part is where I always fail. Same. But that constant mental checklist, it never ends. And even when you finally sit down to rest, your brain whispers, "Are you sure you deserve this?" That question is so common. It's as though rest has to be earned. But if you wait until everything is done, you'll never rest because everything is never truly done. And then there's comparison. Social media creates this illusion that everyone else has a clear, well-defined path. You see someone your age buying a house, getting promoted, traveling the world, launching a business, and you think, am I falling behind? Am I doing life wrong? But we only see the highlight reel. We see the announcement, not the uncertainty that came before it. The vacation, not the credit card bill. The new job, not the 50 rejection emails. Yes, this is insane. We see the beautiful relationship, not the difficult conversations that built it. And then we compare our private doubts with someone else's public moment. That's a game you genuinely cannot win. The truth is, I have a love-hate relationship with my social media, but I think everyone does, right? Anyway, now, can we please talk about anxiety before sleeping? Because why does my brain wait until I'm completely comfortable in bed to bring up every mistake I've ever made? Because apparently, bedtime is the official meeting time for unresolved emotions. Some people call those intrusive thoughts, the ones that seem to show up precisely when you're trying to quiet your mind. I hate that meeting. I never signed up for it. Nobody did, but attendance is mandatory. Like, this is what happens. You turn off the lights and your brain says, "Great. Now let's review your future, your past, your finances, your relationships, and that one weird thing you said in 2018. And somehow everything feels desperately urgent at midnight. Things that genuinely cannot be resolved at midnight feel like full emergencies. That's when I try to remind myself, and it's difficult, this is not the time to solve my entire life. That's a really grounding line. And something else I remind myself, night thoughts are not always reliable thoughts. At night, everything feels amplified because you're exhausted. Your body wants rest, but your mind is still trying to control outcomes. Control, that's really what anxiety is after, isn't it? Certainty, guarantees, and life just doesn't offer many of those. So the brain keeps running through scenarios. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I fail? What if they leave? And the worst part is, sometimes you actually believe that worrying enough will somehow prevent pain. Like worrying is a form of preparation, but it isn't. It just makes you suffer twice. Once in your imagination and once in real life, if it even happens at all. And most of the time it doesn't. It's crazy. You suffer for a future that never arrives. That sounds poetic and terrible, Emma. Anxiety is poetic and terrible. So let's talk about what actually helps. Not a perfect cure, just real, honest things that make the noise a little quieter. For me, the biggest shift has been getting out of my head and back into my body. Simple grounding techniques, walking, taking a shower, drinking water, breathing slowly, even just holding something cold. Anything that brings me back to the present moment instead of keeping me trapped inside a frightening story. That makes so much sense because overthinking is essentially living in a possible future. Your body anchors you back to now. And what about you? Writing, not polished journaling, just messy, honest notes, a brain dump. I write down everything I'm thinking, even the dramatic parts, especially the dramatic parts. And then I can look at it and think, okay, this is a thought. It's not necessarily the truth. That distinction is everything. A thought is not a fact. A feeling is real and valid, but it's not always an accurate prediction. I can feel afraid and still be safe. I can feel behind and still be moving forward. I can feel insecure and still show up. That's self-compassion, treating yourself with the same understanding you'd offer a close friend. I can feel anxious and still have a perfectly normal day, and that one is important because sometimes we wait to feel confident before we act. But confidence doesn't always arrive first. Sometimes you take the call while nervous. You send the email while unsure. You go to the event while feeling awkward. And then you survive. And your brain starts building new evidence. Evidence that maybe you can handle more than you think. That's how resilience develops. I also think connection helps. Not because friends can fix everything, but because sharing your thoughts makes them feel less overwhelming. That's really beautiful, Leah. Sometimes I tell a friend what I'm spiraling about, and she just says, I understand. And suddenly the thought feels smaller. Because shame grows in silence. When you say it out loud, it loses some of its power. And sometimes your friend can gently say, I think your anxiety is talking right now. That phrase is incredibly helpful. It doesn't judge you. It just separates you from the noise. But we should also acknowledge, sometimes anxiety isn't just a relatable overthinking moment. Sometimes it's intense, persistent, overwhelming. And if it's significantly affecting your sleep, your body, your relationships, your ability to function daily, then it's absolutely okay to ask for professional support. Therapy is not a last resort. It's a form of self-care. And you don't have to wait until everything falls apart. You can reach out before the crisis. I really wish more people felt that way. Me too. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to share something I do that has honestly changed my relationship with anxious thoughts. It's a little ridiculous and surprisingly effective at the same time. I'm intrigued. Go ahead. So, when a really dark, catastrophic thought shows up, instead of fighting it or trying to suppress it, I let it in. Wait, you let it in? Yes, but only for 4 seconds. I give myself exactly 4 seconds to think the absolute worst. Full permission. No guilt. 4 seconds of pure mental chaos. This is new to me. What does that actually look like? Okay, imagine I sent an email to my boss and she hasn't replied. My brain goes, she hated it. You're fired. You'll never work again. You'll live under a bridge with a cat named Regret. A cat named Regret? Yes. So, and the cat judges me too. But here's the thing. After 4 seconds, I say to myself, okay, time's up. Delete. And I mentally press delete like I'm closing a browser tab. The thought had its moment. It got its spotlight. And now it's done. That's actually kind of genius, Leah, because you're not pretending the thought doesn't exist. You're not fighting it. You're just giving it a deadline. Exactly. Because when you try to suppress a thought, it always comes back stronger. It's like telling your brain, don't think about a pink elephant. What happens? You immediately think about a pink elephant. Right. So instead I say, come in, sit down. You have 4 seconds. Perform your little disaster movie. And then leave. Perform your little disaster movie. I love that. Leah, you're very weird, but it makes sense. It completely reframes your relationship with the thought. Instead of being overwhelmed by it, you're observing it. You're giving it a very strict time limit. Hey, I'm not weird. I mean, maybe a little, but that's it. A very strict time limit. No extensions, no encores. 4 seconds and you're out. You know what? I'm going to start doing this. 4 seconds of chaos, then delete. It works because you're not denying how you feel. You're just not letting the feeling take over. That's exactly it. You acknowledge it, you feel it, and then you consciously choose to move on. It doesn't work perfectly every single time, obviously, but most of the time, it's surprisingly effective. So if you're watching this right now and your brain is doing that thing where it spirals into worst case scenarios, try it. Give yourself 4 seconds. Let the thought be as dramatic as it wants. And then delete. Close the tab. 4 seconds. That's all your anxiety gets. Not 4 hours, not 4 days, 4 seconds. I dare you to try it today, right now, even. Think of something that's been bothering you. Give it 4 seconds of full catastrophe mode, and then let it go. Like Frozen. Oh my God, Leah. Frozen, really? If the cat named Regret shows up in your version, that's completely normal. Apparently that's a universal experience. So if someone is watching this right now and her mind has been very loud lately, what would you say, Emma? Well, I would say you are not alone in this. So many people appear perfectly composed on the outside while feeling completely overwhelmed on the inside. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're human. And being human is inherently complicated. And I would say, not every thought deserves your full attention. Some thoughts are just noise. Some fears are just exhaustion in disguise. Some problems feel much larger than they are because you need food, sleep, water, or simply a break. And some days are just hard, not because you failed, but because being human is a lot. Being human is a lot. It really is. But at least we can talk about it and maybe laugh a little and maybe drink some water. God, I hope so. Let's not make impossible promises, Emma. Okay, maybe just think about drinking water. You're right. That sounds much more realistic. So, if this conversation felt familiar to you, if you recognized yourself in any of this, we really hope it made you feel a little less alone. And if it did, if you smiled, if you nodded, if you thought, that's literally me, even once, then do us a favor. Subscribe to Easy English Girl Talk. Share this with a friend who also has a very loud brain. And leave a comment telling us, what does your brain's 2 a.m. meeting look like? And every week we explore a new topic, real stuff, current stuff, the kind of things women actually think about but don't always say out loud. Relationships, self-doubt, money, friendships, career pressure, body image, setting boundaries, and everything in between. Honest conversations about real life in English from two friends who genuinely get it. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, and honestly, if you've stayed here for all these minutes, it definitely is. Subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you in the next one. See you soon, everyone. Take care. Be gentle with your mind today, and remember, 4 seconds. Then, delete.